you need to be stubborn but open. You need the stubbornness that you have faith, conviction. It's what's going to keep you going when you're up against the clock, when you're trying to figure it all out. If you're not stubborn, if you don't have faith, if you don't have a certain level of desire and resiliency, this is probably not what you want to be doing.
Hey, welcome to Founder Real Talk. I'm Josh Broward. I'm your host, CEO of Wisdom Partners, and I am thrilled to have on the podcast today Nafaa Haddou. The whole point of this podcast is telling the real life story of founders. And so Nafaa leads FireSafe AI, and they are leveraging AI to prevent and mitigate wildfires. And as somebody who lives in California, let me just say thank you.
No worries. Thanks, Joss. And I am super glad to be here and chat. It's a challenge. You look around and you're like, I'm either crazy or something is happening. Like, why? They say, go start your own business. It's going to be great. And what you end up finding is rather than one boss, you have 1,000 bosses. And it's tough. It's a tough journey, but oftentimes rewarding. And for us, where with FireSafe, where we're trying to solve true actual problems and physical world problems, there is a mission and a culture that's built around that creates some connectiveness, but also some isolation because the challenges are not necessarily the same that you might see with other industries. And yeah, I'm happy to chat about that. Happy to chat about our journey.
Awesome. Thank you. So give us a quick take on what FireSafe is. I know it's about wildfire prevention. There've been some huge ones in the press, both up north in Canada, which it seems kind of, at least for me, as a like United States of America. Not my friends say we're American too, but as somebody down here, I was like, wow, I didn't know they had wildfires up there. But
Well,
we get them all the time. Like I've literally had to turn around because the road was covered with fire.
yeah,
In the summer months, the fall months here, we're like watching, like there've been times we stayed up all night so that because the fire risk was so high. So
yeah,
like, I'm so glad you're working on this. Tell us how you're working on it, how you got into this.
yeah. The reason that we got into this is really personal. When we're talking about wildfires, I think it's fair to say that it used to be like, oh, it's only those places, it's only forested regions, but it's now becoming a global problem. And my family is originally from the Mediterranean. We have home and family there. And a few years ago, there was a massive wildfire that happened, and over 200 community members suffered, a lot of them close family, friends, and associates. And we had half as many that passed away. And so my younger brother and I, Ismail, and he's also my co-founder, we literally looked at each other and we asked ourselves, could we do anything about this? And as a result, FireSafe was a germination. We previously been working in regards to camera vision systems, indoor agriculture, and we were like, okay, this is going to be something that one way or another, I don't want a 3 a.m. phone call coming to myself, to my friend, to some person being told that, hey, we lost everything or we lost someone. And that's what FireSafe is aiming to do. Our core deliverable and our core solution is really about intelligence. It's about trust. So our platform is built to integrate into existing infrastructure or deploy our own mobile hardware to cover risk areas. This is camera detection, mobile towers, but we ingest everything from satellite all the way down to drone, even local sightseeings. And the first stage is risk analytics, where we are able to assess wildfire risk, wildfire hazard. We're in the process of being able to deliver models and fire spread, so more tactical operations, but then being able to connect those cameras that are already up and about, or where it's not feasible, deploy hardware so that in the event that an ignition occurs, whether that's smoke, That's an actual visible flame or even an ignition trigger. We, within 2 minutes, we're able to get boots out the door and responding and reduce those false alarms. And ultimately, the operators and the trust that they need in the systems is huge.
I think startups are one of the highest leverage ways to impact the world for good.
Yeah.
You solve a real problem that desperately needs to be solved, and you do it so well people are willing to pay you for it.
Yeah.
And that creates a self-sustaining engine of like, now we can solve this problem at scale. Okay, now we can solve more problems.
Yeah.
That's really exciting to me.
It is. And it's one of those factors where it takes a certain breed of person to get into startup life. And the one thing that I've consistently seen and from our ecosystem here, from other founders that I've met at different events and conferences and such, is it usually comes from the perspective like I have experienced or I have lived a problem and I want to do something about it.
Yeah. Let's talk a little about your financial approach
Mhm.
for FireSafe, because it's based on our conversation before we hit record. It sounds like you're kind of doing a crisscross between boot scaling and seed strapping.
Yeah. So
For those who don't know out there, these are sort of two new ways of approaching the funding world, the venture world, without giving up too much equity. So seed strapping is you might raise a small pre-seed round and then a seed round, and then you hope you never have to raise again because you're profitable. And so by that time, the founders are going to retain 70% equity in the company. Um, Boot scaling takes a different approach. You bootstrap for as long as you can. Once you find product market fit or close to it, you raise to hockey stick, to grow. And it sounds like you guys are kind of trying to get the best of both of those.
yeah. So there's this unique friction point, at least within our industry and just personal history and personal experiences. We've been able to self-fund and bootstrap a lot of that initial R&D work. The ecosystem that we come from, especially within Canada, has a lot of early stage supports too, from non-dilutive grants that have helped us facilitate and pretty much leverage dollar for dollar what we've gone. And as we grow, we can still access those areas. But to make impact, to go to scale, and to be able to deliver the best service, especially since we're dealing with artificial intelligence, where data is important, where scale is important to actually make tangible results and improve system outcomes, we need to start hitting that hockey stick. And so that's where currently we are raising seed to expand, where we've got that early market fit as it pertains to messaging towards customer desires, but that PMF that you usually use seed to discover and really improve before going Series A, that's where we have this opportunity to really hit velocity and from there go through. Now, due to the inherent nature of the business, the size of the clients and such, it is feasible that done right, we hit the seed, we scale, we can grow. There is that desire and traction within the industry, even with the number of players out there, emerging players, etc., where we hit profitability and we can just really dump and invest all of that big into being a core and major player. Uniquely within this industry, I believe, and this personal thing is it's going to be an ecosystem of solution providers because wildfire response is a spectrum. And so, and it's also what we're trying to solve is there's a lot of people that are doing very great point solutions, but it's creating silos. And we are coming in as that integration layer across the bit, and we build off the success of others.
Okay.
We build off the success of the industry is the best way to
Yeah,
say it.
that's great. Yeah, I actually was just listening today about a group down in the Palisades outside of LA where they are training citizen fire brigades.
Yeah.
So they're not
Yeah.
actually fighting the fire, but they're sort of like extra hands for the fire teams. Uh,
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, we don't need to go down that rabbit trail, but it's just an
But it's
example
true,
of
right?
like
Yeah.
there's like 1,001 parts to this process. And
Right.
so can imagine it having an umbrella layer that helps interpret it for the people making the high level decisions would be really important.
Exactly, exactly. And ultimately, through that, because of the clients that we deal with, because of the sector, usually when we go to a client, they don't necessarily have the capacity or they're missing parts of the solution. And so, in our goal to be that layer of intelligence, we also have to be able to deliver the real world interface technologies
Mhm.
that actually make it useful to the communities, to the industries, to the responders.
What's a win for you guys in the last year that you're really proud of?
I would say one of our biggest wins, one of the things that we're proud of was our team through some of the research that we've been doing in regards to AI. We came up with some very novel ways to deal with edge IoT devices
Mm.
that we're now patenting. And let's say we're going to be releasing it pretty shortly, but it allows us to operate and deliver edge IoT, not just within our industry, but across different industries at 400% efficiency in energy compared to some of the systems like running low scale local models within a Raspberry Pi type level. So that's really cool. We're excited about that.
Yeah.
Uh, Also, some client successes. So going towards like partners and ecosystems and building together. I'm a very big proponent of bringing in the best in class. And so we've signed strong partnerships with other organizations that exist in our Edmonton ecosystem. Air Market, which is doing things with drones and
Mhm.
aircraft deconfliction. We're working with Wyvern, a hyperspectral company or hyperspectral satellite company. So those wins, which allow us to immediately broaden our capacity to do better and at the same time provide value to them as they provide value to us. Those are always wins that I like to share and highlight.
And of course, it adds credibility to you, which is a huge factor for startups.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there's other topics about like being lonely and such. It's also a way where these partners, many of them are also startup-esque or later stages, and being able to sit down and chat founder to founder, CEO to CEO, and have that layer of like, yeah, we just went through that, and here's some here's some advice. Don't worry, you're good. Is super helpful because so often it's you, your computer screen, your phone screen, and all of the horrible thoughts in the world between it. So
Like clouds.
yeah, having somebody there where you can be like, "Hey, help
Yeah.
is huge."
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So one thing we like to say in Wisdom Partners a lot is wisdom is failure redeemed. So for us, that part of that is we have experience, we have some exits, some victories, but we're not here to like chest thump because most of what
Yeah.
we learned in the school of hard knocks. Like we got our butts kicked,
Yeah.
but we learned from that. So next time
Mhm.
we were able to do it a little bit better. What's an example of a mistake you made or a failure, something that just went sideways and you learned something really powerful from it?
So I'll start off by saying that, and you can quote me on this. I have a belief, a saying that I usually try to engage in my life, and it's the wise man learns from the fool. So as often as I can, I try to learn from the fools and follies of others and be the wise man. Inversely, I have many a time been the fool, and hopefully you get a chance to learn from me. As a founder though, the last year, one of the biggest challenges that we've had has been in regards to raising in a niche industry, not necessarily the pure SaaS play, having components of hardware, finding the right investors and so on and so forth in this at this early stage and where you're hitting these cusps. My failure where we didn't really do well was not running a process, having it take too long, really not being targeted, so especially early on with who we were trying to have conversations with and the value. And that sucked time away from what was most important and what is actually the biggest cure all is sales. It's building the business. And early stage where you're running multiple hats, the founders are the sales team. And when somebody's getting pulled off from that, it starts to replicate. And when you have seasonality like we do within our industry, those segues away from the time spent on the phones, time spent with clients, time spent with customers quickly compounds where we need to go through. So I'd say that was the biggest thing, was not creating cutoffs, taking too long, and keeping that open for longer than it need to be in terms of our raise
Can you
time.
get a little more specific about what you would do differently next time?
Run a process. Have that targeted 50 lists, have that targeted 60 investors, commit to 2 3 week window where everything is booked, where that is your pure delegated only focus. And then on that date, that last date, if you haven't hit it, go focus on your customers, plan for it in other weeks. It might be hard, it might be tough, it might suck, still build those connections and so on and so forth, but hit a milestone, hit some success, get something updated, and then run another process, right? So keep it very, very clear and cut and segmented until you hit or close or do what you need to do, but don't let it act as the ongoing task list for yourself.
That's great. So I'll just repeat back some of what I think I'm hearing you say. One is treat your fundraising like a project
Yeah.
and have a project manager, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. More importantly, have an end date in mind that
Mm,
if it doesn't go well, cut it off. Don't let it keep you as a sunk cost fallacy.
mm.
Move on to the next thing that's really important, and then build back into it, run that project again with a cutoff date.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's almost like if you're out there fishing for investment and they're not biting, maybe you don't have the
Go
right
home for
bait.
the day. Yeah.
Maybe you need to go home and work on your your
Yeah.
lure and mature a little as a company. The timing for your company's not right, the timing for the market's not right.
Yeah.
It's better to just like in real estate, sometimes the best thing is just take the house off the market, rent it for a year, and then sell it again. Try to sell it again.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And timing, a lot of time, timing is everything. Timing could be wrong. You might not have a bad company. You might have a really good company, but the appetite isn't there, or capital is locked up, or they're looking through other deals that, they're already later stages. Like there's so many different factors outside of like, can I raise capital or whatnot? But the more
Mhm.
time that you linger on trying to make it work, it's time that you're taking away from working on the business. And if you need that capital, like absolutely to run your organization, my words of advice is find something else that's going to make you money.
Nice.
Unless you're coming out of university with deep tech, legitimately, it's either create a business line, start selling that, start selling a service, keep the lights on, start bootstrapping. But capital does not equal business, and the burden of proof for whether investable has gone up. So you got to find ways to make money in that.
Yeah. I'll just echo that. I'm a big fan of the service first, product second approach. If you need to bootstrap, just go help people solve problems and develop a product out of that.
Yeah. And those are usually the best businesses, to be honest. Like if you can get a customer to pay you to solve their problem, which you then productize and turn into a service or like an actual like SaaS or whatever it might be, you've already got a buying customer. Most of your validation's done, and you're increasing the bottom. Doesn't work with every industry, doesn't work with every case. Don't get me wrong, but majority of businesses usually have some optionality in regards to it.
Yeah. What have been some of the best professional investments you've made over the last year or so?
I'd say my library of books. Traction,
Good one.
Seth Goodwin and his series of books I've read through. Let's see, the lean startup, always a good thing, but just reading is huge on that front and being open. In terms of other professional kind of investments for myself, it was mentoring. So what I mean by that is within the ecosystem, we have like our startup incubators and so on and so forth. And we're part of that, both as a company that's using those resources and being supported by it, but also I work towards mentoring some of the very early stage
Hmm.
or founders that are still at that ideation, the areas that I've gone through up to like the challenging before it goes through. And extremely insightful at times when you're trying to solve somebody else's problem and then you have this realization it's like, this is my problem. I'll this down for myself too.
Yeah, let me just
Don't
make a
deal
note.
with it. So that mentorship experience, because there's a wealth of knowledge that I have that I've experienced through that I've lived, but it's sometimes locked in there. It doesn't get surfaced, and you get the horse blinders out. Through that experience of being able to mentor, one becomes allows me to be more professional, more concise, better learn how to communicate and take my knowledge and bring it to the world. But inversely, it's also extreme learning experience and humbling experience for myself too.
And do you also have a mentor?
I do.
How does that
Yes.
work? What's the structure for that?
I'd say I have two strong mentors. One of them is one of my closest friends. She's one of my closest friends. She runs a change management consultancy firm, and we've worked on projects in previous endeavors before this together. We honestly talk weekly at least, and both in terms of what to, where were the wins, where the bads, and just bouncing off ideas like, hey, I just need a sanity check on this. Can we do this? Can you give it 15 minutes phone call? Let's hash this out. It's phenomenal. The second is more in a professional sense of the field. He is a 30 years experience as a firefighter, with so on and so forth, and not being a firefighter myself and trying to deliver fire tech, there's a lot of knowledge and such that I just need to ingest. So to a certain degree, my goal is to find the professionals that join the team that help us grow, but I still need to have a base sense of knowledge. And he acts as my mentor in regards to once again sanity check, better understanding, and really learning about the challenges, the verbiage, and how things go through, which helps me be a better leader for our business here directly.
Yeah, great. What's the biggest challenge you guys are trying to solve right now?
As with any early stage, repeatable sales. So what I mean by that is the concept of who our target ICP is, who you're really speaking to. But realistically, it's also from the investor lens, especially when raising things where we are you pattern matching certain areas. Obviously, we deal with municipality, we deal with regulated and unregulated industry, usually large enterprise. We get the feedback that our sales cycles are too long. When then my question comes to me in terms of the business is how do I shorten it then? Are we really that long comparatively to other things? Is it long compared to the value of the contracts that we're going through? Do I have wiggle room upwards? Where are we playing? So those are some of the things, and I guess that's where I say in terms of repeatable sales is how do I structure this that I can hit since we're raising money the investor ideal paradigm while maintaining the viability of us being able to go to market quickly
Yeah.
and the way that we package our software and package and deliver and onboard that reduces and condenses as best as possible what we can across the spectrum. So yeah,
Are your customers primarily government or government adjacent agencies?
there's three main sectors when we look at it. Land, our current validation and landing mechanism is working with municipalities at the county level, not the state or provincial, but large land area. There's a mandate from the community to do something about it. In relation to that, there's the associated industry that operates there. So oil and gas pumps, utilities, etc., where there's now regulatory and liability and business continuity aspects. So municipalities help us validate. Enterprise becomes the mechanism and the support and social good impact as well that we can engage with.
Okay, interesting. We should talk some more because I know some people who work in GovTech sales.
Appreciate it. I would love it. Thank you. The other thing too is, I'll be honest, finding GovTech investors is a bit hard. So it takes a certain breed of understanding for like these for anyone that deals with regulatory or government type sales where, yeah, it might be a very long 12 to 18 month, especially state, provincial, federal, but you're pretty much going to then be with them for the next 5 or 10 years and their LTV is super high. if done right.
Right. Right. Very sticky.
Hmm.
So you've already mentioned running funding with a time-bound process. What's another piece of advice you would give seed stage founders or pre-seed? You guys are kind of right on the bubble of pre-seed.
Yeah, we're right on that verge. You need to be stubborn but open.
Yeah. Easy peasy. Yeah.
100%. The worst advice ever, right, Josh?
Well, it's just so true though. Like you have to stubborn in the right ways and open in the right ways. And if you get either one of those wrong, you're screwed.
It's a spectrum. Like you're always hovering in there. You need the stubbornness that you have faith, conviction. It's what's going to keep you going when you're up against the clock, when you're trying to figure it all out. If you're not stubborn, if you don't have faith, if you don't have a certain level of desire and resiliency, this is probably not what you want to be doing.
Mhm.
Just being a factual. Inversely, you need to be open. You're going to butt up against people that are going to try to give you advice and so on and so forth. And always, yeah, take it with a grain of salt. But if you're too stubborn and bullheaded, then you lose out the opportunity to get insights and perspective from others. And as a result, you could easily just be creating such a situation for yourself that slight pivot, a movement, or in all honesty, being very honest with yourself, is this worth it? Is this actually an industry? And do I end this and do something else? Having those hard conversations. The sooner that you're willing to have them with you, your team, your supporters, the more freeing it can be as well.
That's great. Thanks. So if there's somebody out there listening to this and they're like, I want our community to be more fire safe. I want to help FireSafe AI succeed and thrive so we have less mega fires in the world. What can they do to help you guys, to help you connect with their local governments? What give us a little insight there.
Great question. So the easiest, always check out our website, firesafe.live. You can find our contact, book time, and such. You can also reach out directly to me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on there. So Nafaa Haddou, right on LinkedIn. I got one of those names that you will find me if you look yeah. And just reach out. I'm always happy to converse. And the areas that we always love support are three things. If you find a need or there's a need for your community, come speak to us, help warm intro into the organizations, the companies that you might be working for that might be looking for it. The other is if you just want to chat and share your experiences and share your knowledges, please tell us about that. What are some of the challenges? You might be an firefighter or first responder, and thank you very much for all you do out there. What are some of the problems? We have the capacity to really change and pivot and actually address those, and we're always trying to learn. So sharing that is great. And three, if you're looking to fully support the business and provide, and you're on the investor side, reach out. Happy to share about that, talk about it. And if you have advice or feedback, as I said, you got to be stubborn, but you got to be open as well. So I'm always open to taking that feedback as best as possible. So just check us out.
Awesome. Nafas, thanks so much for being here, being part of this today.